Philosophy, Indian Armed Forces. This session brings together a distinguished panel of senior veterans and thought leaders, each of whom have shaped India's air defense vision and operational doctrine at the highest levels. We are privileged to have with us Major General Rupesh Mehta, Sena Medal, Vishisht Seva Medal, Additional Director General of Capability Development and Sustenance, whose work is pivotal in shaping emerging doctrines across the tri-services domain. May I request you, sir, to please join us on the stage and take your seat. Joining him as co-chair for this session is one of India's most respected voices in aerospace power, Air Marshal Anil Chopra, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Vayu Sena Medal, Vishisht Seva Medal, former Director General of the Center for Air Power Studies. Sir, I request you to please join us on the stage. Sir is in fact a fighter pilot par excellence and defense strategist. He brings a joint services perspective on integrated air defense doctrines. Also, ladies and gentlemen, chairing this session is a stalwart of air defense operations, Lieutenant General Dr. A.P. Singh, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, former Director General of the Army Air Defense. Sir, I request you to kindly join us on the stage as I inform the audience that he brings with him decades of operational, instructional and strategic experience. He has been instrumental in conceptualizing India's layered air defense framework. Together, we will explore evolving doctrines, challenges and integration and the path to a robust and future-ready air defense philosophy for India. Now that the panel is already on the stage, I hand it over to you, sir, to please take it forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am in very good company here because I have two specialists who have seen air defense evolve over the last couple of decades. And I think the lecture before this, by Colonel Maurya, was very apt, which gave us a focus of a country which has evolved in the last 40 odd years in air defense to a level which is world leader. And the situation today, what happened last night, again brings to fore as to what situations or scenarios, the way it was talked about in last lecture, will shape what's to come next, and therefore what India needs. And therefore a discussion on the operational philosophy and doctrine for India is something which is current today. It is evolving. We understand that air defense, the way it was explained earlier, started with defense against manned aerial systems. And we fully understand it's totally changing scope today, where the unmanned systems and the missiles have become the main worry. And therefore, whatever we are trying to secure in terms of our military and civil assets in the hinterland, in terms of securing our combat forces, whether on land or on sea, when they are for combat duties, both are evolving. And in that, equipment, networking, operational philosophies, jointness that was talked about big in the last lecture is something we are seeking. And since we have two very experienced gentlemen on the panel, sir, I'll request you to talk about it.
Thank you, IAI. Thank you, St. Joe's, for this invitation. I'm a last-minute panelist. Came up last night around the same time as Op Sindhur was perhaps being launched. But it's all right. I don't have a ready presentation, but I quickly jotted down some points on the excellent presentation by the very handsome Colonel Maurya, who spoke in the first session. What a broad breadth. Obviously, he spent his lifetime doing this. Yes, we are going to look today at these, what should be your doctrinal aspects related to air defense. The importance of air defense is very well known, but we are going to talk, I'm going to talk a little bit about that because there is a doctrinal issue, there is a strategy issue, there is a technical issues related to air defense, and from my little experience over the years, nearly 40 years in the Air Force, and now with over 1,000 published articles in the last 10 years, I'm going to try to, put the big picture. Yes, what is air defense? Yes, defense of your motherland, defense of your country, its assets, its cities, your military assets, everything that is there, you have to defend it from a possible air attack. And air attack need not just be kinetic, can be non-kinetic, and various other types of attacks that you can be launched with. And the good thing about is that Israel and India have worked very closely with air defense. I must mention with pride that whether they are the radars, whether they are missiles, most of the systems in Indian Air Force, including airborne radars, AWACS, Aerostat, mostly they are being done jointly with Israel, and that's a strong area for Israel. And we hope and wish that this exercise will continue. So when we look at the big picture, first I think is what is very important is the situational awareness. Intelligence has been spoken of in the first session. Getting the situational awareness right. That means all my sensors, my radars, my early warning radars, the various other electronic airborne sensors, satellites. I should be able to create huge situational awareness, a map, everything from a fly to aeroplane, everything that's flying. I should be able to track it. I should have intelligence inputs. I should be able to track it 24/7. I have to first track it, and I have to identify it. Thereafter, I have to, identify. Then I have to, thereafter, find ways to intercept it, and intercept and finally destroy before it can launch its weapons or be of any harm to you. So there is a big picture first. Now, in situational awareness, we in India, especially the Indian Air Force, we created IACS, integrated air command system, which sits on a secured network, and that network allows us at any given time to have a full picture of the entire airspace and the seas around us. And it is possible, therefore, and because it is networked, and its picture is available to every operator and the commander in the command and control centers, it is possible for the interception of engagement to be carried out from anywhere at anywhere. So that kind of a thing is. So first thing I talked about is intelligence and situational awareness. Early warning is an important part of it. Why early warning? Because earlier you know what's happening. What are you looking at? You're looking at ballistic missiles, you're looking at aircraft, you're looking at cruise missiles, and nowadays you're looking at drones, drone swarms. So you have to have an early warning of various things. And as was mentioned, that some of the early warning may not come in a hurry. For example, if something is taking off, a drone is taking off from a place, it's going to take few hours to reach. I must also have some intelligence which must embed into this overall, early warning and the big picture. Next thing I want to talk about is layered defense. For the years we have been talking about this layered defense. That's been a concept that you will have to defend, while the threat is still to enter your area. Then it's entered your area at the far end. It's come closer, and then it's come very close. So you have to have a different weapon system, whether they're aircraft, they are ground-to-air missiles. And there are, then of course close-in weapon systems. So there is a layered defense. Now, layered defense also includes layered radars. For every type of threat, every type of weapon that I'm going to engage, there will be a different radar. We all know, most of the systems around the world, including Israelis or even S-400, there are 4 or 5 different radars which are looking at the different parts. So therefore, in this layered defense, different types of radars, different types of weapon systems, that will do the needful. The next thing I want to mention is between the 3 services, need for coordination. Air defense requirements, the Army are different, Air Force is different, Navy has its own, they are in the sea, they are far away, they have to defend their own selves. There will be different types of radar signatures. There'll be different types of weapons, especially between Indian Air Force and the Navy, and also Indian Air Force and the Army. The management of the TBA, the tactical battle area, has become very important. The number of projectiles that are flying in the TBA, phenomenal. The issue about fratricide, kinetic as well as electronic, has become a big issue, because in the TBA, if you're jamming your own systems, it's going to be degrading you. And while you're managing this TBA, you have to also make sure that most of the weapon systems have maximum freedom for most of the times, so that the overall efficiency of the air defense sort of does not, get affected. The air defense need not be of defensive nature. In fact, they should be more offensive in your air defense. So offensive air defense is what is the criteria now, whether it's the aircraft, whether you will go, cross the border, hit them before they sort of can come and hit you, whether you will hit their offensive assets, or whether you will thereafter defend from here. So this defense and offense is important point I want to highlight, which has got highlighted to some extent in the morning, and that's about what's happened in Ukraine and West Asia. The kind of air defense has changed. We all know, despite the Russians being nearly a 10 times larger air force, air was denied to them. In the initial 1 month, they lost nearly 50 fighter aircraft, including some of the top-end fighters. And therefore, a new term has come, air denial. That means they have been denied. Of course, the Ukrainians have been denied because their aircraft also got shot up. So this air denial has been possible because of good air defense systems. And that is why the importance of having the top-end air defense systems. As far as Israel is concerned, I think to take on ballistic missiles, to take on, in Iraq war, they took on Scuds, they to take on various other smaller projectiles, even if it is to be done with an expensive system. I think that's become important. Another thing I want to mention is technology. Technology, of course, AI and AI-based systems help quicker decision making to help you choose the best system. Directed energy weapons coming in a big way, because it'll be much cheaper. Of course, initially expensive to build and design, but subsequently directed energy weapons are going to greatly, support air defenses, because you'll be able to burn the electronics, you will be able to burn the warhead of the, enemy aircraft. So this is electronic warfare again, whether in Ukraine or elsewhere, have played great role. Whether you'll jam the GPS or the other signals, you'll jam data links of drones, or you'll jam swarm drones data links, or you'll various ways of electronic warfare. That's another area of technology I thought I will make a mention about. Lastly, I think the issue that got very nicely highlighted in the morning is training, exposure. I think this is very, very important. We have to, have out-of-the-box way of training. Of course, you must be proficient in your own system. The engineer, the operator, they must know every bit of the system that they have. They should know the limitations, how to exploit it in the best of ways. So operational training, I think, is very, very important. And training has to be learned on the job. After every event, after every exercise, the kind of debrief you do, the kind of after an operation, like in Israel now for 2 years, they are, fighting a war there, or in Ukraine more than 3 years. So there is a constant way of learning and improvising, and whether you change the hardware, software, you change tactics, whatever you will change. I think this is, very important. My last point, of course, is that for any country to have a good air defense system, you have to manage supply chains. That means your industry has to be good. Your industry has to be able to support. Now, India is trying to drive for some years Atmanirbharta, self-reliance. We are asking foreign companies, good companies, especially from Israel, to come and set up factories. They have already set up. We are doing joint ventures with them in large numbers. But ultimately, we have to build our own technology. We have to have our own intellectual property rights. We have to take help from friends, as I mentioned, from like in Israel. We have to get our industry to be able to support the country's air defenses. And with this, I think we'll take more as we go along. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Can we have your, please?
Jai Hind, I'm audible back. Okay. Yesterday, like him, me also, I got that call from Director St. George that join us today morning for a MRSAM seminar. Subsequently, I saw a program which was sent to me in the afternoon that says that air defense doctrine and philosophy. For a minute, I thought as to how the MRSAM and the two should I combine, and because it's a very focused discussion or seminar on MRSAM, but air defense philosophy, doctrine, role, responsibilities are very, very generic, and they have been evolving over a period of time. So I thought, I don't know how should I go about this. But subsequently I created a sense around myself as to this is what should be. The first point I have that Indian Army, I speak exclusively from the Indian Army perspective, not from the Air Force and not from the naval perspective, because I have been in Army air defense or land-based air defense or ground-based air defense. I served for almost 40 years, from 1981 till about 2015. And last 4 years I'm blank. So if there is any doctrine or philosophy which Army Air Defense has prepared in last 4 years, I'd like to correct myself. But I'll give you my experiences of how the Army Air Defense has been functioning based on the doctrine and philosophy which have evolved. My first point is, if you look at it, like they say, history is the best way to learn about how things are going to be. Because if you study your past wars, like in our case, 1971, 65, 48, blah, blah, even of Parakram, of Vijay, they'll give you a perspective of how the air defense can be for tomorrow. Like today we have Op Sindhu, now how air defense. The challenges will be similar, but it's also there that the next operation will never be similar to what it is. So I looked at it and I said, okay, let me look at why things have moved in a particular way. There is something called Union War Book. The Union War Book is like a Bible for the conduct of operations in the country. For India, I am talking about exclusive India. If you look at the first Union War Book of 1939, that was the gold standard. The Britishers created that Union War Book, and they gave a very clear distinction between the two. That attack artillery they called. In fact, a lot of countries still call attack artillery. The attack artillery's responsibility was to defend against the air attacks coming on the various BAVPs. And air defense was given responsibility to the Air Force to take all actions in the air. Again, I'm repeating, any attack from bombers and all that, what came in Second World War, the responsibility was given to the ground-based air defense and to Britishers. They kept the air defense attack artillery directly under the General Staff, not under artillery or Air Force or Army and all that. In fact, Air Force itself was a fledgling arm those days, in 1939-40. The fighters still had not come, those tactics and all this thing. They created independent Major General attack artillery in the East Mediterranean, that battle of that Second World War. From then Union War Book, we got independent, 1951 Union War Book. Things kept moving in the similar way. Even 1971, we had a Union War Book. The distinctions were very, very clear. All acquisitions, all your decisions based on the role and responsibility. But post 1971, the acquisitions have got mixed. Like I'll tell you, the VSHORAD, the shoulder fired sword, this is. It's with the Air Force, it's with the Army, it's partly with the Navy, may not be this. your other systems, OSA, the Indian Army uses for a strike corps to move along with the ground troops and all that. It's with the Air Force. So somewhere the changes started taking place. And somewhere in 93, the whole nomenclature was changed to the air defense and responsibilities for them. So today, in the last 15, 20 years of service, I started finding there's so much of mixing, matching going on. And today, if you find, in fact, last 5, 6 years, now everybody is getting counter air operations, counter UAV, you say, or counter air defense, you can get that. Like you see any number of people from NSG, CRPF, from other places. So the air defense now needs a proper doctrine and philosophy. This is what I'm trying to say. The doctrine and philosophy under which we operated for last, at least till 2015-16, needs to change, needs to get corrected, and needs to align to the present realities. And that's where the role of the MRSAM, I'm finding, has got a big relevance. Luckily, the MRSAM, which got inducted into the Army in the last 2-3 years itself, I was the Director General in that period of 2015 to 2021, ADG and all that. We created the organizational structure. If I compare the MRSAM with the similar area weapon we had called Quadrat was a huge structure we had. Almost 1,000 troops, almost 200 vehicles, heavy mobile vehicles. Today, MRSAM is the commanding officer. I just met him today. It's not even 200 people. That LY80, or sorry, that you have that. I've started forgetting because the last 4 years I'm blank on air defense. So that the future is now on lean, mobile, logistically, and multi-task capability we should have. So that MRSAM will provide. Why I'm emphasizing all this? Today, even in Army, it is struggling with, we have got a lot of legacy equipment. A major equipment is L-70, which is more than almost, it got inducted in 1962-63. For last 60 years, we are holding on to that. There are other guns, other missiles. I mean, everything is 35, 40. So our structures were created for the third generation warfare, or whatever we call it, industrial warfare, like you move as a mass. Our structures are still in that. So there is challenge for ground-based air defense, how to remain relevant, because the battles today are not classically fourth generation, or I'll not talk about fifth generation because Chinese are now talking about fifth generation warfare and all that. But that whatever the air defense elements I have for which are created, how to make them relevant. So Army AD, I'm talking about ground-based air defense, has to operate on two platforms. The ground forces which are moving along, they have to protect, as also, so what I'm trying to say, firstly, the role and responsibility has to again deal in it. I'm not saying it should come to Army AD or it should go to the Air Force. We have to now, earlier, if you remember, all our restrictions were in the form of height band and all that. The height band itself is a legacy of US versus Russia, if you all recollect. The bombers, 1950, the bombers used to fly very high, so we created air defense for that. Then the 1960s, 70s, the bombers came down. 1980s, stealth bombers came in. So that, like, Army AD used to have a restriction that you will not be, I think, 300 meters and above is not your operation zone. The MRSAM itself, when the government sanction came, we were told by our sister services that your range is restricted to 70 kilometers. I'm giving examples of here. Today, the relevance of that restrictions on the range, restrictions on the height, restrictions are all gone, whatever the battles that we are fighting. So the first is that role and responsibility, if you are delineating today between Air Force, Army, between us, BSF, between us and others, they say, it has to be in a different format. For example, between the Air Force and Army, today it should be all strategic assets, all your, this should be handled by one particular service. All ground troops, or in the Army language, we talk about the core, the TBA and all that. TBA, everything has to be centralized. What he said, it should come to one particular basic, and there should be no confusion thereafter. That capability is improving. The command and control today, the command and control itself has gone a paradigm shift. Even I can, since I'm a retired officer, I can say even our IS, CCS or Akash Tir or even that naval, we have that trigon, they are a past today, past. You see how that Ukraine-Russia war, how Ukraine is fighting. The command post that they have created, that fellow US, I don't remember his name now, Peter Thiel or somebody. He's given a command and control, they call it Delta or something. It's based on that cloud. Anybody can, in fact, every citizen who's got a mobile with him, he's connected today. He reports to him. They call it Uber of artillery. Anybody can ask for a fire, but there are checks and balances. There's no chaos there. So the way the computers started from mainframe, they went to PC, then .com, then internet, and then through cloud. Now we are into a app-based warfare. So even our command and control, which Air Marshal talked about, it has to move into that direction today. We cannot remain based on that. These are the 10 nodes we have created on the Western Front. Like, example I'll give, just don't take it from this. ISCCS. We got say 10, 12 ICCS lined up. We got so many of this thing. They'll control. It cannot be now. The decentralization he talked about, it has to be a different. Yeah, you create a big picture through that cloud or this thing. It should be shared. And there are structures today whereby are relevant information. But you have to give a freedom, you have to give independence. So I would say the role of Army AD. The role of Army AD when I was taught in 1981 till about 2000 was to defend a particular VAVP against aerial attacks or to deny him. It was a defensive in nature. A defensive air defense army, I'm talking about army. Army air defense was always defensive in nature. You got a VAVP given to you, you go and deploy all around in a number, you create those 3-4 layers. It cannot sustain today. It has to be offensive. The role itself has to be offensively what he talked about, that the launchers, like even MRSAM launchers itself, when they started inducting, I remember the CDS that time used to be DGMO, we pushed single launchers on various axes. The ability of that entity, in fact, for example, I tell you, or like they say, that when the GSL came, that we had 4 launchers given to a one troop, or something of that type. We found the ship uses just 2 launchers on either side. The Air Force has got a 3 launcher concept. When we looked at the capability of this system, we found even 3 are more than adequate. So we created a fire unit of 3 launchers. So I'm giving these kinds of examples as to how we have to get now. Organizationally, I already mentioned, we have created from 1100, 1200 troops or soldiers, we come down to less than 200. The exact figure I won't know. The commanding officer is here, ex-commanding officer. So, and the system is much better. A fire unit can cover almost about 150 kilometers, 120 kilometers with that kind. So, this was the second point I have, that role, responsibility, and this thing has to be. The deployment itself has to get offensive. The role has to now shift from defending to ensure that air is, I'll not use the favorable air zone, don't let the enemy come and attack you. So sorting out before he takes off from there. There are today, your information is available in plenty. Anybody getting picked up. In fact, all these LEO satellites which are traveling all around, they can giving you the instant you are getting that picture almost say 15, 20 inches. That there is some Kepler fellow in US is selling his LEO satellite, I'll say, in a commercial way to all this fighting that is going in Ukraine. So this is how the Army air defense, I'm talking about ground-based air defense, has to get the MRSAM is a very live example of how the Army AT has to restructure. Even the Akash weapon systems, that other systems that are getting inducted, we tried to make them as lean as possible. In fact, Akash itself, somebody sitting here, we had 100 and some 80 odd HMVs, big vehicles in a regiment. We reduced to almost more than 100 by 1/3 or 2/3 or something. Yeah. So that many other things are there. So our final conclusion is that our role, responsibility has to be restructured, made it light, and we have to align to the present threat of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Lot of questions actually I'm sure both of you have raised and are left with the audience. I do understand we're talking of layered defense in a huge geographical area. We saw what Israel is doing, but we have a huge geographical area, especially with the counter US, so we have a challenge in there, both in operational philosophy and then the doctrine. And second part is industry user interface, because if you have to achieve whatever is being talked about, how that can improve. I think those questions are remaining. We'll take some questions from the audience, sir. Yeah, please.
Can I take 14 to 5 minutes?
Sir, pardon, sir?
Can I come there for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Air Marshal Daljit Singh. I was ACS Air Defense for about 2 years, and I was Director General Air Operations for 2 years before I commanded an independent operational command. Listening to this air defense, I thought it is important to elaborate on and clarify certain things, because as they said, they were like pilots on operational readiness. They were suddenly told to get into the cockpit and fly and take on the target. So obviously they would have implications. I will just go over few points. I know the time may be short. Just few points, relevant points, which I thought are important. Air Marshal Chopra talked about multi-layered air defense, actually which started in Second World War. I will not go on to that. He also talked about layered radars and things like that. Now, what is important these days is, firstly, if you keep getting radars, they start interfering with each other. Air Force buys certain systems, Army buys certain other systems with independent radars without taking into consideration the mutual interference. Then you are in grief, because in peacetime there are restrictions, and when you open it up and during war, things will go wrong. So we must consider that. Second is, we have to have multispectral radars. Not radars, multispectral sensors. The first target which enemy is going to shoot or destroy are the radars. Do we have passive systems? Indian Air Force is going in for passive surveillance systems, but still it requires some transmission from other aeroplanes. These days there are EO systems, 3D, with such excellent capability, even in bad weather they are able to detect. Passive systems, the enemy would not know whether he is being tracked or not. So we have to look at these aspects when we are talking of these systems and radars. Second is airspace management is very, very crucial. When we say Army is doing its own air defense, or Air Force is doing its own air defense, remember, it is not only the air defense which is going on. There are hundreds of aeroplanes which are flying. Offensive operations are taking place. Army is using their own Pinaka systems. Airspace management is very, very crucial. How will it come? Interoperability, connectivity, which is very, very important. There has to be centralized control. Otherwise, we are heading for a lot of shooting down our own aeroplanes. What is the present state of air defense responsibility? Let us be very clear. Air defense of the Indian airspace is the responsibility of Indian Air Force. That is why the control of airspace is with Indian Air Force. Systems may be deployed by the Army, by the Navy. Control of those weapons is with the Indian Air Force to avoid any fratricide. I have a lot of issues, but I will now just cover what is the doctrine if we are looking at air defense doctrine. What should be the ingredients? Integrated air defense, very important. Multispectral, very important, with the multiple sensors including AWACS. It should be resilient. If I have an MRSAM and if I have LBMS star radar, if somebody destroys LBMS radar, will the MR system not be able to operate? Will it have resilience to operate without the radar? Will it be able to take input from other systems? Resilience is very important. Redundancy is important. That is why we have multi-layered. We have to have redundancy also. So that if in the control or reporting system or in weapon system something goes wrong, there are alternate means. And these days it is important and it is possible. So in our doctrine, it should be ingrained. Reducing footprint, along with that mobility, is very important. SAM-2s used to take 6 hours to deploy. S-400 takes 5 minutes to deploy. Look at the footprint of SAM systems. Can it be picked up from all over? Mobility in a high altitude area. System should be mobile, pluggable into secure network. Because we have to have mobility, because you cannot control every air defense of every square foot of the system.
So we are short of time, so
Yeah.
request you.
Combined air picture. I am taking slight more time because this is very, very important if you are talking of doctrine of these things. All right. That is all. I have lots of other points, maybe some other time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure over lunch people will contact. Thank you.
Gentlemen, I'm extremely sorry.
I'd like to clear one thing here.
You can take the mic. We will give the mic. Yeah.
I'll be very quick and very brief, since it is a very open forum. I am Major Pathak and I am from the Integrated Defense Headquarters. I would like to make it very clear into this forum that there is a joint doctrine and joint AD architecture which is available today. It is nothing like that. That there is the AD architecture is different, and the when I say the Air Force architecture is different, and the ground-based AD systems are only with the Army. It is nothing like that. Today, while the Air Marshal brought it out correctly, that the overall AD responsibility, airspace management responsibility, and the AD responsibility remains with the Air Force. However, there's a joint document which is there, which talks about, it is called as JSSG, where the overall responsibility remains with the Air Force. However, when the Army moves for the mobile operations, like what the General was bringing out, for those VAVPs, the Army will take care of it, however, under the joint common architecture. While the systems are in place, the architectures are in place, the only mismatch which is there as of today is the private industry, the capacities to take care of the three services requirements of the AD weapon system. Thank you.
So any of you would want to make a concluding remark following that, or we're good? All right. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate your inputs, and thank you to all our distinguished speakers for that compelling and forward-looking discussion on India's air defense philosophy. Now I'm going to request Lieutenant General A.P. Singh to please help me in extending a token of thanks to both our panelists. Can we please have the mementos? First for Major General Rupesh Mehta, and General A.P. Singh would be extending the token of appreciation for Major General Rupesh Mehta for coming today and finding time for us for this summit. And next for Air Marshal Anil Chopra, please. So thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your insights on this extremely important topic. And Air Marshal Anil Chopra can perhaps now extend the token of thanks to Lieutenant General A.P. Singh as well. Thank you very much, sir.